What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dropping Dimes, the show where we talk about all things basketball. It is also the show where we swerve in that corner. Whoa, well, I had to do it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm your host, Rodrigo, but you can call me Rod. And on this 150th episode of Dropping Dimes, I am joined by no other than the King of Kentucky, Blake. How you doing, man?
Rod, I'm doing great. 150. That is
150.
incredible. So
I know, man.
exciting.
Yeah.
I know. Special episode. Looking forward to it.
So pumped for it. Next up, I call him Trio, but you might know him as Leo. Leo, what up, my man?
I'm good, man. Whoa is right. 150. Let's go.
All right, last but certainly not least, making his triumphant return to dropping them, it is Mr. Taple Double. Tay, how are you, my man?
I'm fantastic. It's a good one to be back for, man. 150. That's exciting. That's a big
It is.
achievement.
It's a big one. 150, guys. I cannot believe it, honestly. I'll get sappy at the end, but yeah, we've been around for a while now.
Yeah,
Longer than
true.
any other podcast, that I'm sure.
The longest running podcast ever.
Here
Yeah.
we go.
Arguably.
We're
All right.
swerving and bending. Let's go.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about, guys. We're gonna talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're gonna get into the second fan voting returns of the All Star game. We're gonna end on a weird note with the Phoenix Suns and some of a quick discussion about the media. And we've been talking about the low ratings in the NBA, how to fix it. But let's talk about the role of the media in this whole conversation. But let's get started right away. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Even though they dropped the game yesterday against the very powerful Indiana Pacers, sarcasm included, in case you missed that. But they were coming from a 12-win streak, and one of those most recent wins was against the hottest team in the West, the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was an awesome game, arguably one of the best games in the entire season. But guys, I haven't really talked about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and every other time that we talk about them, I know I have called them pretenders, but I have to admit, after that win against OKC, I was very impressed. So I want to hear from you. Are the Cavs for real? Should we really be paying attention to them, or are they just a really, good regular season team? What do you think?
I think for me, I mean, they're the real deal. I mean, when for me on paper right now, they're definitely. I would have them, definitely first in the East. I mean, I know they are statistically looking at the records as well too, but I personally would have them even above the Celtics, just in a 7-game head-to-head series, especially if they're going to play at home as
Really?
well. I personally would, and that's something. If you were to ask me back in November, I probably would say you're crazy. There's no way behind that too. But one of the reasons why I think that they are the real deal, especially is obviously coming up against an incredible win over the OKC Thunder. I mean, playoff atmosphere. I mean, I think we can all agree probably the best game this season in the NBA as well too. And what impressed me the most by Cleveland, especially, is like they got it done without Donovan Mitchell really having a good game. I've always been kind of curious against these top teams in the league how they would do when Mitchell's struggling. And you saw Darius Garland, the kind of game that he's had and season he's had incredibly too. Evan Mobley, just how incredible he's played as well. So they are the real deal. Now, I will say for me, the Thunder still are the team to beat in the NBA, in my opinion. I know that sounds strange. They're coming off this loss. We know, I mean, game 2 for them is this Thursday in OKC as well too. So if the Thunder pull that out, I think that they are the team to beat. They're the best defensive team in the NBA. And keep in mind, this was a game against Cleveland. No Chet, who they've not had for some time. No Alex Caruso as well. So again, Thunder's still my team to beat. But yeah, the Cavs are for sure the real deal.
Yeah, I feel like they are. I want to believe that they are. But I flip flop. I feel like they could potentially be that Hawks team a decade ago, where everybody that started was an all-star.
Yeah.
Voted really well in the regular season, but just kind of showed their true colors when it comes to playoff time. A lot of those guys aren't proven, but what I do think separates them from that particular version of the Hawks back then is that Donovan Mitchell is a superstar, and so is Evan Mobley in my eyes. I also think Jared Allen is potentially a top 5 center in the league right now. And nobody talks about Darius Garland. He gets slept on every year, but he's an all-star through and through for me. So, and the supporting cast. So they are a bit more well equipped to go farther, but the league is just so much more talented nowadays that I can't really say for sure that I believe in them just yet.
Yeah, there's something about Dean Wade and Max Strus. I don't know. I'm not willing to believe in them fully yet. But Tay, tell me what you think.
Well, I think the noticeable difference, at least on paper, would be the coach, right? They brought in Kenny Atkinson, who is a much more offensively minded coach, but they've managed to continue to have the number one rated defense in the league. But what I like is that they've been able to find a more balanced approach to the offensive side. Last year it was a lot of, okay, we're going to give the ball to Spida, to Donovan Mitchell, and we're going to let him go to work, and he's going to ISO in late game situations, and any clutch time situation is going to come down to, okay, how do we get Donovan Mitchell into a position to score? Where does he want to get the ball? Where does he want to get to? What are his spots? But I think what we're seeing this year is a much more balanced approach to the offense. You notice that a lot in the main litmus test for this team of this year so far, their win against to extend their win streak and crush OKC's win streak, against the Thunder. We were able to see how they were able to use that balanced offensive approach where they kind of kill you by passing. Like the ball's constantly moving and it's not sticking in one, and it's not an ISO heavy ball anymore. And that's how it was last year, and it got really frustrating. And I think that led to Darius Garland's down year last year. He's noticeably playing far better this year, and that is just knowing. It's mental, right? When you move the ball and it's going to come back to you, there's a good chance it's going to come back to you. You're going to play better. You're going to move the ball faster. And they didn't have that same, kind of energy on the floor last year versus this year. We're kind of seeing it. The guys know that the ball's going to come back to them where they want it. They know they can get into their offense. They know it's not going to turn into, just a DHO with an ISO up the top. And they know when it comes down to crunch time, they're going to go with the hot hand and they're going to share the ball. It's not going to just be Donovan's turn to kind of shine, right? And then all this said, their offense isn't even necessarily the most elite in the league. I think they're rated 18th or something like that. If I'm getting that right, I lost my notes here a little bit, but 18th. So bottom half, technically bottom 50% of the league in terms of offensive rating, but number one best defense in the league. And that starts with what you guys are talking about, the bigs, right? Mobley and Jarrett Allen. I think their rim protection and their defense. What I'm noticing too is their rebounding rates. Rebounding rates are fifth highest on the offensive side and sixth highest on the defensive side. These guys are massive, and then it works really well with Jarrett Allen being able to kind of run the paint, right? And Evan Mobley can kind of be lurking there, and then they can switch out. They can offset them a little bit too, but they always have a high level rim protector on the floor at all times, which is something that no other contending team in the league can really claim to have. So I think this team is absolutely for real. I think it was kind of a matter of time for them to find their groove, and I don't think that the coaching last year was necessarily poor, but I think it was time to kind of move this team into this future state they're in and into championship contention. Well, that's where they're finding themselves.
Also last year, like Donovan Mitchell, there was a lot of talk about him leaving, right? And so it was a year for him to show out and get his bag. And he did. He decided to stay, and now it feels like they're all on the same page and going for that mission of that championship. So I think like with the coaching changes, like you said, and like kind of this renewed energy going into the season, they came on and surprised a lot of people, but they've sustained it. So yeah, I'm a semi-believer.
I don't know, guys. Like, how many times, and it feels like year after year, there's always that one great regular season team, right? Now, last year for me, that was the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Leo, you mentioned the Atlanta Hawks from back in the early 2000s. The Denver Nuggets at one point were that team where they have a great regular season, but then playoff time comes and maybe it's exhaustion, maybe it's being untested, unproven. I don't know. I want to believe, but at the same time, I don't know why I cannot. If I were to put money into the Cavs, I would be very scared. I would not. I actually have them as second round maybe. I'm still scared. Blake, you mentioned that you would take them over the Celtics. I don't know. The Celtics, even though they've slipped a little bit, but I would still, in my mind, the East is run past the Celtics, not the Cavs.
Well,
I was gonna say I could definitely see that as well. But the thing that I don't know, there's something about this Cavs team that just to me, Leo kind of brought it up too. Just
It's really fun. It's really fun.
It's fun in chemistry as well too. Like they seem so playing so free and well together as well. And fun fact, in NBA history, the Cavs have the 5th best record at this point in the season than any other team in NBA history, which is mind blowing, especially considering a lot of the love has been to the OKC Thunder lately, which again have an incredible season. Obviously, 15-game win streak that they had too until the Cavs upset or beat them within that too. But this team, there's just something special about them. And like Leo mentioned, like now that Donovan Mitchell, he's got his paycheck as well too. Like that was really hanging over them. I feel like last year, obviously they lost to the Celtics last year in the playoffs too. Like I just feel like this team is built for this season to really make a further run.
Mm-hmm. And unlike the Hawks of the earlier decade, there wasn't a clear-cut kind of superstar that can kind of take over at the end. Whereas I feel like there's potentially 3 options.
Donovan Mitchell rings a bell, maybe? No?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, Donovan Mitchell is the guy that could do it, as well as an Evan Mobley or a Darius Garland. They can all kind of take the last shot and win the game, whereas the Hawks probably couldn't back in the day. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you were saying that. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Gotcha.
So I believe in them a little bit more because of that. But
yeah, something we haven't really talked about too is the depth that they have. Notably Max Strus coming back, I think in the last 2 or so weeks here, making a big impact off the bench. But I know we're going to talk about the Suns a little bit later in the show, but a little bit of a teaser to that is a noticeable lack of depth, and that's what we've been talking about with concerns with the Suns moving forward, is putting all that money into the starting 5, and then how are they going to sort out the bench? Cleveland doesn't seem to have that problem. It's a nice deep bench, similar to kind of what the Grizzlies have there, where they've managed to seem to find a roster of 10 players that can all play at least average NBA basketball, and that's really important when you go into championship contention, right?
At least.
I mean, there's a lot of teams that are carrying players, players 8 through 12 that want to be contenders, that are carrying players that aren't going to play come playoffs, or aren't going to be able to play come playoffs. And what's going to happen if there is an injury to one of your star players, right? We talked about that with the Bucks too, right? The Bucks, great starting 5, but what happens when it gets beyond that? What happens when there's an injury and then you're carrying injury-prone players? Cleveland doesn't seem to have this problem. They can sort of slot players in and out. Now, obviously, Donovan is like the heart and soul of the team. He's the high-powered star player. He's the guy getting all the endorsements. He's the guy who we know and who we're going to talk about right away. But they're able to sustain an absence of him and maybe not carry a 15-game win streak, but they're going to still be able to play winning basketball and still keep their team identity without, kind of struggling with him off the floor. So I think that this team has built a really nice winning culture, which is something that you definitely need to go far. I don't know if I'd go as far to say that they're better than the Celtics. It's hard to say that a team currently is better than the reigning champions. But I think that they're certainly entering that airspace where we can start to take them seriously, right? And say, okay, what's going to happen if it's into a playoff series?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now each of those games is going to be really exciting for us to go and watch, and every Celtics Cavs game is going to be circled on the calendar, because you want to see what it's going to look like come April, May, June. So I think this team's very, very exciting. Very great basketball to watch. Like, if you want to talk about some of the best team basketball since probably the old Spurs era, we're starting to see some sort of shades like that. I'm not going to go all the way there, but I'm seeing team basketball. I'm seeing cohesion. I'm seeing people happy to play together. And as Jarrett Allen says, I'm seeing ethical basketball. And I think that's the perfect encapsulation of what this season's been for them so far.
I love that ethical basketball, because someone dropped it on Kate Cunningham as well. He's not, trying to go for fouls and all that. That's something that maybe we should touch on the next episode, ethical basketball, and how it's bringing it back to basics.
Yeah, well, just this year with Donovan Mitchell kind of doing less is more, going the Jason Tatum route of last year, how they got to the chip, where felt like Tatum for a long time was just trying to do it all on his own, and so is Donovan Mitchell. But now you kind of see with what kind of Blake said in that OKC game, he was really off, and the Cavs found a way, and it's because of this kind of whole season of building up to this point, right? So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. That's why that game was such a great encapsulation of the season so far. And like I said, it was a litmus test, because we saw them go and we saw Donovan Mitchell struggle he really struggled. He really struggled in that game. It's not just Donovan Mitchell struggling; it's also the OKC's defense, which is one of the most elite in the league, and certainly we've seen for some time. So, but we're seeing that they've got great perimeter defense from OKC, able to shut down and able to take it away. But what happens then when that is taken away? How do we still manufacture offense beyond that, and they're not having to really dig deep for it, or really, I guess, like whose turn is it going to be? We don't know what it's going to look like tonight. We hope that someone has a great night. They just know that they're still going to get buckets. All the players seem to have trust with each other. The ball moves flawlessly, and it just looks like great basketball. So I think it's going to be a deep playoff run for them, and I look forward to a Cavs Celtics playoffs. If that's what's going to happen.
They do have the makeups of championship teams where everyone buys into the role. No one is trying to go outside of their lane, and they know what they're good at, and they're trying to excel at that. And that is really fun to watch. That really is. And the older I get, the more I like just basic basketball, and the Cavs are giving me that. So I'm a very happy, angry old man.
Ethical.
But yeah, ethical basketball. I dare everyone listening and watching to drop ethical basketball at your next run and see what the reaction is.
How many All-Stars do you think is on this team?
Just one. Come on. Like
Just
maybe
one?
I say
Evan Mobley.
Two.
Yeah,
I'd say Mobley
but
and Mitchell.
I cannot give everyone else a vote over any other guys, and we'll talk about it. But I say just two.
Not Garland? Y'all crazy.
As much as I want to, but no, he's not an all-star to me.
Good season, but yeah, I wouldn't put him in yet.
Love the guy.
It'd be hard to bump anyone that's on that list off for Garland. Like he's played tremendous basketball, but the level of play has shown up more on the court rather than the stat sheet. And I think that a lot of people will kind of take that into account, but it's also a little bit difficult.
I love him. I love Darius Garland.
He's fantastic.
He's a great guard, and he's not afraid of facilitating, putting his teams first, and he carries the team at times. But I don't know if he's, who would I bump out of that to give him a spot? I don't know.
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
Okay, before we move on to the last question around the Cavs, if I ask you guys to commit to a prediction of how far can the Cavs go, what would you say, Blake?
I say, how far can they go?
Yeah,
NBA Finals for sure.
Okay.
I think they can. I think that's as far as they can get. I don't think they'll win it. I think they can get to NBA Finals. Celtics will be a tough. So I think Eastern Conference Finals will be a tough series for them. Like I said earlier, I think I'd still roll with the Cavs now. So NBA Finals for me.
All right, I'll take it.
I'd agree with that.
Oh, sorry.
Eastern Conference Finals. I just don't see them getting past the Cavs, or the Celtics. I don't know. Like Jaylen Brown, man, that's my dude.
I'll take it. Tate?
I think that anything short of the conference finals is a disappointment, but I think that their ceiling is absolutely the finals. I think that they have a path to win it. I don't see why they wouldn't. You never know what's going to happen in the playoffs, who's going to get injured, who's going to be there. I think OKC on the other side, their trajectory is the finals as well, but you never know. You never know who's going to come out of the bloody West, right? So I think that there's a pathway there for them, but anything short of the conference finals is a disappointment.
I'm gonna go with second round. I feel there's Timberwolves vibes here, and there's a team. I'm looking at the Milwaukee Bucks as a dark horse in trying to, and if they somehow end up matching up with them, they're gonna get
Jimmy
punked.
Butler, then maybe,
or Jimmy
Don't
Butler,
forget the
maybe
Knicks too.
someone just punking them along the way, and it's the Cleveland Cavaliers at the end of the day, and this fan base is already happy with what they have. So, yes, it will be a disappointment for the players, but I think everyone will be like, you know what, this was really good. Let's try again next year.
I don't think you carry number one in the East over top of the championship, defenders, and then say that you're happy with second round. I think that's a disappointment if they don't make the conference finals.
Let's go. That's the energy we've been missing.
Wow.
There we go.
The guy comes back and starts talking back. I see how it is.
I mean,
we're getting too comfortable with each other now.
Look at it like this, right? Like the other teams that y'all mentioned, the Knicks, the Bucks, wherever Jimmy Butler ends up, a lot less rotational consistency than the Cavs have. The Cavs have been together for quite some time, and I know they went through all that drama with Jimmy Butler, with Donovan Mitchell, but I don't. Who really knows how true all of that was? If he was requesting out, or if that was rumors. It seemed like it was a little more like people being like, I want Donovan Mitchell to come to the Knicks, so he wants a trade, and he's going to ask for a trade if things don't get better. I don't think there was any real water to that. I think that this team is happy playing together. I think that the level of basketball they're playing is completely, I think they can carry that consistently, no problem. I don't think there's any issues with consistency there. It's just a matter of things breaking right for them. Maybe they draw a rough bracket and they get caught in a couple 7-game series and they're really dog tired by the time they get to the conference finals, the time they get the second round or whatever. But I think I think it's a disappointment if they don't make the conference finals. I think they've been far and away the best story in the Eastern Conference so far.
Yeah.
Aside from Dyson Daniels, everybody can pick up Dyson Daniels. Best story in the Eastern Conference. Let me tell you that. And then
the vacuum, Dyson Daniels.
He's great.
I refuse to call him anything other than the vacuum. All right, let's move on.
Ethical defense.
He can do whatever he wants on defense. He's got my heart. All right, let's move on, and we'll see where the Cavs. What's their trajectory? We'll obviously go back to this and see who was wrong, and you might have heard the siren on the background, and who deserves to be caught by police for their take on this show. All right, let's move on to the topic where I lost my cool last week. The All-Star Game fan voting returns, and we have the second round ready. I'm gonna put them up just because it'll be easier to discuss them. You should now be able to see a little bit of, not actually everything, all the voting. So let's go a little bit through it. Again, the front courts on both conferences kind of make sense to me. Right? There's not a huge surprise. Let's start with the Eastern Conference. Giannis at number 1, Jason Tatum, Karl-Anthony Towns. Then we go Paul Banchero, Jaylen Brown, who leapfrogged a bunch of people on this second return. Then Jimmy Butler still at number 6. Jimmy Butler Nation going strong. Franz Wagner, Evan Mobley, Joel Embiid, and Paul George. And on the Western Conference, we still got Jokic as the top voter getter in the West. Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Wemby, AD, Şengün, Jalen Williams, Andrew Wiggins. I don't know who's got property on Andrew Wiggins Island, but you're trying to get your investment back, and I respect you for that. Sabonis and Jaren Jackson Jr. Any surprises there, fellas?
Yeah, again, Kevin Durant and LeBron James. I cannot.
But why?
Because they're not playing winning basketball, and it's not their time.
Is it ethical though?
Wemby and AD definitely deserve it this season with just the pure stats alone, and how they're impacting their teams. Like, they deserve it much more than LeBron and KD. Don't get me wrong; I want to see them in the All-Star game, but as reserves. I think
is Wemby playing winning basketball right now?
I would say so.
I would say so.
Yeah, parts about him for sure.
You guys chose the 150th episode to just the three of you to go against me, whatever I said today.
I'm
great teamwork.
Great teamwork. I'm dropping the Şengün bit, like trying to get your boy AD in, and
AD totally deserves to be an All-Star if you ask me. Absolutely.
I don't even know if he deserves it over Wemby though. I feel like Wemby's playing better basketball than AD right now.
I agree, Leah. I have Wemby over AD personally.
God, what?
I do. I'd say no. To me, first of all, no surprises to the top 3 for both in terms of just how the fans voted. Definitely no surprises on that.
Okay.
Now, from a personal standpoint, I actually would keep KD number 2 for the Western Conference. I could see that, but I would have Wemby and AD over LeBron. LeBron, heck of a season. He's definitely should be in the All-Star game as well, well deserving. But just the seasons that LeBron and Wemby have been having, I would absolutely kind of put them above that too. So that would be my only kind of thing too. Evan Mobley, I think, should be bumped up in terms of just where he's standing. Again, I understand maybe from a fan vote perspective, but I think he's a bit more deserving. Not top 3, but just to kind of move up that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cleveland's not sexy. That's why they don't get the votes.
Pretty much.
I don't have a huge problem with the front court, to be honest. I think that LeBron is a bit of a legacy vote. Like, he's going to get the votes regardless, but you can't really discount the fact that he is still having a pretty stellar season. And he is 40 years old. I think that deserves a little bit of praise there. So I don't have a huge problem. I think that I would like to see Wemby start. I'm not overly surprised that he's not quite there yet. It's not a lot of votes that he's missing over LeBron, so maybe the Spurs fans need to get their stuff together a little bit and get some more votes out there and hit up those double, triple vote days. But I can't say I'm overly upset about this. I think the thing I'm probably most upset about in the front court is the fact that Paulo Banchero got injured so early in the season. He's come back and had a huge impact already. Guy's just so fun to watch. Guy knows how to hoop. But if he doesn't go out, then he's definitely there in third over Cat. But Cat's had an incredible season, and he's kind of had another show to form of what he used to be prior to things getting kind of muddy in the front court in Minnesota. So I think that these rankings are mostly fine. I think the guards are where it's a little
let's get into it. And I'm going to start with the Western Conference because that one is also, in my opinion, slightly less controversial. But we'll get into it. Number one, the Prime Minister of Buckets, and like I said, potentially our actual Prime Minister, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. No problems there. And if you got a problem with that, find me. I'll give you my address. Steph Curry at number two. Luka, who we said it last week, will get the nod, but more likely than not, he will bow out of injury. At number four, with the renaissance of Kyrie Irving, then Anthony Edwards, his stock has dropped a little bit, but that's, I think, a result of the Timberwolves season so far. James Harden, Ja Morant, De'Aaron Fox, Devin Booker, and Norman Powell. Mm-hmm. Now, let's jump and let's try not to give myself a stroke here. At the East, still LaMelo Ball. LaMelo freaking Ball, now known as Jello, as G3's brother moving forward. Donovan Mitchell at number two. Damian Lillard, number three. No issue there. Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, Tyrese Maxey, Cade Cunningham, Jordan Poole. I don't know else. The property in Jordan Poole Archipelago is hot probably, and people want to get their money back. Darius Garland, Leo, there you go, and Tyler Hero. Okay, go at it, guys. You know how I feel about the East. The West, I don't have too much of a problem, especially with the starting three. Someone will get Luka's spot, that's fine. But the East,
I think Luka will be back. I think he's listed as week to week. He's been out like a week or two. So I think All-Star game is a little over a month away. I think there's a good chance he comes back for that.
I think so too.
I think him and Steph are kind of interchangeable in that spot as well.
And it's in San Francisco, so I kind of give the nod to Steph. I don't mind that at all. Actually, he's been playing really good basketball as well. The Kyrie thing.
I mean, Steph is a legacy vote, right? Like if you're gonna have a problem with LeBron being a starter, you're gonna have the same problem with Steph Curry being a starter over Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic has been playing better basketball when he has been healthy, and Luka's been having a down year comparatively. And we want to talk about winning basketball, this and that, where each team ranks in terms of winning basketball.
All right, you're right.
You can't have the problem with LeBron and not have the problem with Steph Curry. That's a little silly.
I'm just a Laker hater. We knew
that from the beginning.
The president burst into flames when he put that jersey on.
I think the West guards, easy on those. The one thing, and I brought this up last week as well too, the slander on De'Aaron Fox is uncalled for. I mean, this guy, eighth. I mean, the season he's having, he's practically, I think, fifth, sixth in scoring in the NBA right now, averaging 27 points a game. Heck of a year as well too. I mean, the Kings, they've had their struggles. Obviously, they're kind of getting it back up a little bit too over the past few games. But eighth, I'd put him over Morant, Harden. I put him over
Ja.
Yeah, the season.
I would put him over Ja. Ja hasn't played much. Yeah. Ja hasn't played much. He's been fine when he's been playing, but he hasn't been.
I feel it's just that he hasn't been enough controversy that we're not. That we haven't talked about him. That's all.
The Grizzlies are trucking along and winning games, and it's a big part of that is Ja.
Ja hasn't played 5 games in a row all season. Like he hasn't been healthy all season. Like they're not winning games because of Ja. If anything, they're winning.
You could say the same about Luka. He's been in and out of the rotation with the injuries.
Sure, but the winning percentage when he's been out has been far lower, right? And so when we talk about John Morant, the reason that the Grizzlies have had such a step up this year, I believe, is because Triple J's offensive game has taken a big leap forward. Like we're seeing him drop 30 plus point games very consistently now, which we hadn't seen in the past. And then they're getting contributions from rookie guards like Jalen Wells. And like I said, they kind of have a 10 deep roster where they're all seemingly above average NBA players. So I don't think it's super surprising that they're doing that well. Luka, I think when he's out, you can feel the impact more so than when you can feel the impact of Ja being out. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference. What is LaMelo doing up here? We were talking about
Convince me, guys. Convince me, please.
Ethical basketball, bro. LaMelo Ball is the antithesis of ethical basketball. Like I do not want. It's okay. Look, the highlights are really fun to watch, but my God, I'm so sorry, Hornets fans, but that is not fun basketball to watch. That is depression basketball. That is poverty franchise level basketball. They're letting this guy go out and play like it's NBA 2K. The park is going to spam dribble moves and he's going to take a fading 3-pointer off of one leg, and because one of them goes in out of every 6 or 7 thousand takes, it makes the ESPN top 10. Like, come on, it's so ridiculous. This is why I hate fan voters. Uneducated fan voters, they see 3 highlights and they're like, "Oh my God, this guy is Jesus wearing Jordans." Like,
Not even.
I'm angry. I'm so mad about that. And you know what? And I like LaMelo Ball. I think he is fun to watch at times. But my God, what is Trae Young doing at 5? Trae Young is having a tremendous season, and listeners of the podcast will know I have not been the biggest Trae Young fan. If anything, I've been a Trae Young hater. But my God, that guy is playing well. That guy is playing, and he's playing ethical basketball. High assist to turnover ratio. He's getting to the free throw line. What is he doing in 5th? What is he doing underneath Jalen Brunson? What is he doing underneath LaMelo Ball? Oh my goodness!
And there's almost a million. I mean, I'm rounding things up, but almost a million vote difference between Trae Young and LaMelo. Like, that's insane.
Like it's almost like New York Knicks fans have figured out a way to like add negative votes to take votes away from Trae Young out of the rivalry, which, by the way, fantastic rivalry, incredible for the sport. That the Trae Young and New York rivalry would be hilarious if he ended up in New York Knicks jersey one day. But I what is he doing down there? Like this is a popularity contest at this point. This is like I bought Big Baller Brand back in the day before it went under because it was a shit brand, and now I'm gonna vote for him because I feel bad. Like, what are we doing?
Look at that! It's ripping into it. Tay, love it right there too.
I walked in the door. I hit the microphone. I was ready to yell about LaMelo Ball.
We need to get LeVar Ball on here to share some
God,
insight.
no, I mean, yes,
it's like him and Tay right now. Some great back and forth on that. So
if you're LeVar Ball, you probably just had the best couple of weeks of your life.
Oh, fantastic! Shout out Jello.
Your kids have made it.
Absolutely.
He got signed by Universal or something, by the way. Jello.
$8 million guaranteed. Yeah.
I'm not even mad about Jordan Poole being on the list. Like, I think Jordan Poole's played fine this year. In terms of guard play, 8th best guard in the East, maybe, but it's not that controversial, I don't think. Like, he's had a fine year. He's improved. He's kind of been what we expected Jordan Poole to be last year. He's kind of found.
I am not mad. I am surprised that there's that amount of people that are voting for Jordan Poole, but are not voting for Tyler Hero.
Or to be honest, and I'm not saying this player I'm about to mention is having a great season, but I brought him up last week, like Halliburton. Like, I'm just surprised just from a fan vote standpoint. We're talking about LaMelo, like, again,
this year.
Yeah, like, just, I mean, not necessarily having the greatest season, but just from a fan standpoint, and not even top 10. Like, to me, that's a bit shocking.
I mean, I've come to terms now to just wait for the announcement to hear, and your starting guard out of the Eastern Conference, LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, I got
last week. Tay, I was you last week. I popped a vein. I had to go to the doctor. Probably I should have. I'm now just I'm drinking a lot of chamomile tea because it's helping, I think. But I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it still.
Yeah, I would say if
Trae Young 12 assists a game playing winning basketball.
Yeah, I'm with you, Terry. Love Trae Young. Definitely well deserving to be. He was for me starter. Certainly quality for that. I will say if LaMelo regardless starter or not, this dude's going to set a record for most 3-pointers in an All-Star game. I guarantee it. The way it's going, I can see.
Oh
that
my God! Oh my God!
Oh,
No,
yeah.
Oh,
I am not ready for
Put it
LaMelo
in
Ball to
the
have
books
an
right
All-Star
now.
game
for
record.
it, boys.
Oh my God!
It's in there.
Where's Derek White?
No, we're good. We're good. Thank you. No, if
I will say, I think that maybe Ivy could have gotten a couple votes had he not had a pretty devastating injury. It was kind of fun to see him start to pick things up this year. That's certainly disappointing. Mikal Bridges seemed to kind of turn his season around. Not super surprising. He's not on that list. But I don't know, man. This one kind of threw me for a loop. But I mean, it's always this way. There's always one where it's like, what is this guy do? I will say, LaMelo Ball has a play style built for the All-Star game because he wants to do all this flashy stuff and doesn't really care about winning and anything like that. So I think it's
the neck cracker.
Maybe it's maybe it's a match made in
snapper.
heaven for the All-Star game. I don't know. Maybe
People
the
want to
fans
see
know what they're
it.
doing.
People want to see it. Just give the people what they want. They want to see LaMelo Ball do his thing. You know.
I want to see Shea torch him. That's what I want to see.
Last week I predicted for LaMelo to be, second, third. I was wrong. I have no problem admitting it, but I also don't enjoy admitting it. So, anyways,
statistically, if all you're doing is looking at stats, if you're going through the NBA list, and you're just looking at stats. I mean, it looks like an All-Star season, right? If you don't look at
30 a game,
right? But then how many games are you winning? Right, you're not winning any games. Your team doesn't look particularly happy to play with you when they're all just standing in the corner watching you dribble the clock out and take fading one-legged shot. Like we're beating the dead horse at this point.
Best thing about the Charlotte Hornets is their announcer who just loses his voice on every other call.
Well, that's who should be the All-Star starter.
That dude, he would hype up the game.
Get that guy a new contract. Get him out of there. Free my man. ESPN, what are you doing? You want your ratings to get up? Hire that guy. Good God.
I don't even know his name, but we don't know who we're talking about.
High energy. Yeah.
I watch Hornets games for that guy. I don't watch for LaMelo. I watch, like the Blazers are playing. I pull up the Hornets feed because it's more fun. The guy has so much passion for the game. It's just a shame that it's wasted on like a 15-win team season after season.
Shout out to our nameless guy who we'll find out his name very, very soon.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's allow me to bring the mood down.
Eric Collins. Shout out Eric Collins.
There we go.
He's listening for sure.
Allow me to bring the mood down a little bit, and let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. Now, needless to say, the Phoenix Suns are not performing at perhaps the pace that everyone expected them. You might remember that we had that late night breaking news emergency pod when KD was traded to the Suns. And right now, as of January 13th, the Suns are sitting at an even 500 with 19 wins, 19 losses. But the Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, KD experiment is not necessarily working so far. Last year we talked about, it's injuries. They haven't had enough time. I think they even played less than the Kawhi, PG, and Westbrook trident when they were together last season. But now, aside from one game or a couple where they've been out, but everyone is mostly healthy and still they haven't figured it out. So, guys, is it too early to potentially suggest that the Suns start looking at alternatives and kind of blow up this experiment?
Suns are cooked unless they do something. And that something's going to have to be Bradley Beal, who just happens to have a no trade clause. So, I mean, sucks to suck, I guess. But we were talking about depth issues and Cleveland and Memphis and all these teams having OKC having like a very healthy roster of top tier NBA talent, right? And this is the exact opposite of what that is, where everyone outside of their top three, probably top two players. Is there another contender where you can pull anyone outside of KD and Devin Booker and put them onto another contending team and they would have a starting spot? I don't think so. Right. And Yusuf Nurkic let me tell you, as a Blazers fan, none of this should be surprising. But nobody watches Blazers games, so we were able to get some value out of him, which worked for us. But he's been benched now for Mason Plumlee, which is pretty ironic. Another former Blazers center where they used to battle for minutes. So, they're replacing dudes with rookies, right? They're trying to throw everything they can. Tyus Jones hasn't been what we thought he was going to be. We thought he was going to be a nice, backup guard, set the table while the stars rest. But you're putting an awful lot onto old man KD's shoulders on this team, and hoping that hoping he can get you over. And then here we are in the Western Conference. We've got all these teams that are able to run laps around them, and I think the Suns are a little bit cooked, man.
Yeah, hate to say it, but I think I agree with Tay. I just don't see a scenario where three heavily offensive-minded superstars in their latter half of, aside from maybe Booker, out of those three, will get far in the Western Conference without depth or defense. And they're just, playing a lot of iso ball. They just haven't figured it out, and they need to get something in return for Bradley Beal if that's possible. I know there's rumors of Jimmy Butler, but will that even, put them over the hump? I'm not really sure. So, yeah, the Suns might be done. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not even mentioning really. I'm still giving Devin Booker more credit than I think he's due for the season that he's had. He's had
regression. He's definitely regressed this year.
He's had a noticeable regression this season. He hasn't been anywhere near the player that we expect Devin Booker to be. I know it sounds kind of rich coming from me, a seasoned Devin Booker hater, but I mean, we're talking a drop across all categories, and he's shooting below league average from the 3-point line, shooting 33% from the 3-point line. This is, you're not going to win many games when that's supposed to be your guy, the dog. That's supposed to be the alpha on the team, and you're not seeing him grab any of the opportunity. So I think that they have problems outside of those star players, but I think outside of KD, everyone's been disappointing. Nobody's shown up in how they were expected to. I don't know if that extends to Frank Vogel and the new coaching staff there. It's hard for me to try and hold them accountable because the pieces that they've been given don't seem to make a lot of sense. KD's just wasting away. It seems like KD's hooping. He's getting buckets, and every time they win, it seems like it's KD pulling them over the top, pushing them over the top in a game that they really had no business winning. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you're in the Eastern Conference, you can kind of weather some of these storms and get a couple more games against some of the lower seeded teams. But unfortunately, you're in the Western Conference, and that conference is loaded, and you're going to be fighting to get into the play-in tournament.
Yeah,
with KD and Devin Booker and Brad Beal on your roster. Brad Beal is not what he used to be, but you have a big 2.5, I guess I would say, right? And you're not able to get over the hump, and it's not looking very promising. And they don't have any cap space to make any moves. They don't have a ton of picks left.
They don't have any picks left. They don't have their own pick until 2031. 2031.
Yeah, which is insane. I mean, things are not looking good. We should take this sun away from Phoenix Suns because it's a total eclipse right now. I mean, things are just black there.
Yes.
It's not looking good. Things are pretty
moon.
dire in Phoenix right there. Exactly through that. And they're just, I don't think many of us were fans of this roster coming into the season. I mean, they're just, really not built for success. And when you see a quote unquote big three in the way that everybody's kind of been playing together, the lack of depth that Tay was kind of talking about earlier too, just things aren't looking very good. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they're going to move Bradley Beal because, as Tay mentioned, he has that no trade clause. Obviously, only him and LeBron James in the NBA right now too. The Miami Heat, who keep being a talked about team, maybe that he might go to, have already kind of essentially said that they don't want him in terms of that contract. They don't want to take on that money that they would incur because they're trying to set themselves up for future success too, especially in the free market. So it's not looking good. Now, I will say, since they've moved Bradley Beal to the bench, they have played a little bit better on paper as well too. I mean, they're 4-1 in that period. And for those that love stats, net rating wise, the Phoenix Suns with Bradley Beal off the court are 9th in the NBA in net rating. When he's on the court, almost dead last. They're 28th. So it shows, that obviously how they've been playing when he is on the court. So they are making some strides since that's happened. But again, long term, I don't like what I see in Phoenix.
Brad Beal making $50 million this year, by the way, 5-0.
Insane.
No trade clause. You're stuck with him, right? And I think I don't think this was particularly.
Bradley Beal is also right? When he said that, I hold the cards
holds-
in this
Yeah.
Oh,
game.
he was 100% right. Yeah.
He
The trade
sadly,
rumors are.
he's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no water in those trade rumors because he holds all the cards, and they knew
I don't
that
know.
when they traded for him, and it was a yeah. I mean, we're
I
not
feel
even
like
really
he doesn't
talking
want to be
about.
there either, right? And that's the problem. Like he's not gonna waive that clause unless he agrees on the trade. And there's nothing that the Suns are strapped for moves. Like the best they can do is try and trade him, but Blake already said like not even Miami wants him, and they want to get rid of Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, that's the
It's
thing.
contract.
Like, say there's no trade clause. What are you moving for him anyways? $50 million this year, 53 the next year, and a player option 57 the year after that. The only thing I can really think is you're salary dumping them somewhere, right? And then you're attaching picks or you're attaching assets to that trade to get another team to take that money off your books. Then you're going to the offseason trying to find a free agent to fill that space, and maybe that's the play. But then you're pulling the plug on this season, which maybe is a good call. But I mean, we're not even really talking about their on-court deficiencies, right? Like we talk about the way the roster is constructed. There's no table setter, right? Like that's supposed to be Devin Booker's role, is he's supposed to play the point and get the ball in motion. But it's a lot of your turn, my turn basketball. It's a lot of okay, we're going to just switch along the perimeter. We're going to continue to run DHOs until I get the matchup I want. I'm going to attack that matchup. We're going to hope KD saves us with his night's mid-range game. And on the other side of the ball, there's no defensive players, right? KD is perhaps the best defensive player on this roster that plays regular minutes,
Probably.
and they've subbed in Ryan Dunn, who is probably the second best player despite being a rookie on the defensive end. So
He's had a nice season.
he's had a nice season. It's a nice story. It's just too bad that the expectations.
Do we then move from not look at the Bradley Beal untradeable contract and maybe look at moving Devin Booker if you're trying to still salvage this season? He's got a bit of a dip. I know that he's supposed to be the man in Phoenix, but he's also had many years to prove that he could take this team to the next level, and he hasn't really, right? They had that run to the finals, and ever since then, they've not been really that great. They've moved on from DeAndre Ayton, and Booker still has some value here, and you're not going to get rid of KD. So, who do you get rid of?
Or do you? In an aging asset like KD, maybe
I'd get rid of KD.
Part ways, yeah.
Get
Maybe
rid of
you
him.
stick with Booker and a little bit of his youth.
Yeah,
KD's probably got the most value on that team, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like Devin Booker has his values declined this season. I don't know how many teams are pining to get him, or at least pining to give up valuable assets aside from just a pick package. And what are you going to do with the pick package? You're going to try and flip it next season. Any plug they pull is going to be just reshuffling for next season, hoping you can land a big name free agent, or hoping you can turn those assets into another star player that just happens to want out. I think Jimmy Butler is probably the ideal situation, but where's the pathway for it, right? Like you're going to want to do Brad Beal because that's from a roster construction standpoint, that's what makes the most sense. But you're still missing a point guard. You still have a terrible defense. Like you have guys on the perimeter that get walked around. You're hoping that old man KD can save you at the rim. It's just not a fun brand of basketball.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, like of all the teams in the NBA, off the top of my head, like Phoenix is probably in one of the worst situations right now. Just things aren't clicking, and really, like again, no picks as you mentioned. Just the highest payroll in the NBA, like $221 million. I think 21 more than the Timberwolves, who were in second. Like again, I think KD being traded is maybe an avenue out of that. I mean, again, 36 years old. I'd have Booker first. Again, 28. Even though I agree, he's kind of regressed a bit. But again, he can bring it back too. But again, there's not a lot. I mean, Bill's not going to waive that no trade clause. So
yeah, I mean, we're talking like a 0.5 game lead in the standings over the Spurs, right? Like it's pretty dire. I think a team that has aspirations and expectations set at competing at the highest level is nowhere near that, right? Like you're struggling you're in 10th. You're struggling for a play-in spot. When push comes to shove, are you going to beat the Warriors out for that play-in spot or the Spurs out for that play-in spot? Like they don't seem to really want it. And I think that a lot of that starts with Devin Booker. Like this is supposed to be, I think Leo was saying this is Devin Booker needing to take the next step, not just on the floor, but in terms of in the locker room, being that guy, being the alpha, being the leader, right? Setting the tone for how the team is going to compete. And unfortunately, Devin Booker has a bit of a history of being a bit whiny, and it seems like that is the culture that has been set there, right? So Kind of funny to think that the Blazers got DeAndre Ayton and Tumani Kamara for Yusuf Nurkic. So.
I also want to add a final nail on the Phoenix Suns coffin, and that is that according to Tankathon.com, they got the third remaining strongest schedule out of all the 30 teams. They got the third toughest one. So that's not necessarily what you want to hear when you're looking to, when you're tied at 10th with the Golden State Warriors, who, according to Tankathon, are where are they? They're not. Their schedule is not as difficult as the Suns, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good. The Warriors are at 25th. So, and they also have a man named Steph Curry.
It's also not. It's not what you want to hear too when you're sitting at barely 500 basketball that you have one of the toughest schedules remaining.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy to see Devin Booker kind of regress this season, honestly, because he had such a strong showing out in the Olympics just this past summer, being kind of the plug-in guy that could do a little bit of everything that's asked of him, and not being able to translate that over to the league this season. It's strange.
Let me stop you there. I think that is exactly where you want Devin Booker. You want him to be a bit of that, do a bit of everything. But you're not like the lead guy, and like they're asking him to be the lead guard, the lead table setter, create the offense, get in the. That's not who he is, right? And that's not something that we can really hold against him. That's a roster construction problem, right? Because you're not starting Tyus Jones to do that, right? That's not what you brought Tyus Jones in for. So I think that I think you're absolutely right? Like it is kind of shocking to see him come from that Olympic run, but then when you look at the role he was playing in the Olympics, that's the Devin Booker role. Like that was using him properly, and Phoenix is using him improperly, and that's a roster construction problem. That's what happens when you have a billionaire come in and buy a team and try and buy a championship right away. It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Do we still think Devin Booker's a top 5 shooting guard in the league?
Well, let's list them out.
Yeah.
Ant Edwards, right? Who else we got? Well, let's take a look at the All-Star list there.
So, we're talking probably Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown. Donovan Mitchell's a 2 guard, I would say. Garland is the 1 guard.
2. Yep.
Yeah. Ant Edwards, Donovan Mitchell. We're talking Jaylen Brown, Desmond Bane. Let me pull up the team list here. I'm going to drop
I'd probably have them top 5 shooting guards. Yeah, because when I think about, at least, again, I'm kind of looking also at the kind of the fan voting over here as well. Like a lot of the premier guards definitely be more of a point guard, kind of basis traditionally from a backcourt standpoint. So I would say definitely top 5 shooting guards in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so as well. If you gave me a Devin Booker right now, I would not complain. At the guard position, right? At least offensively, no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah,
that's kind of what we were saying, right? He's not a bad player.
It's not.
It's not like it's performance solely on things that he can control. He's being misused, and the roster around him doesn't complement his strengths, and it's challenging him on his weaknesses, and he's falling short because he's being challenged on weaknesses, right? Like it's. We all saw it, right? We talked about it in the offseason. We talked about it last season. And I think they went and got Tyus Jones, hoping that was going to solve things. But, when they made that big Eastern Conference run, they had Chris Paul, right? They had a table setter, had one of the greatest table setters of all time. And they had him running the offense, and they had Devin Booker running off ball a lot. And that saves Devin Booker's legs to be able to be that crunch time hero shot maker, and then we're seeing him carry the heavy load of creation in the offense, and then his legs run out by the end of the game and his shots are falling short. You watch his shots, you watch the games, fourth quarter, his shots are hitting front rim, right? The shots aren't particularly close, so it looks like a fatigue issue. Like it's a team problem. You guys know I'm not a big Devin Booker fan. Like, I would be ready to jump down his throat, but I don't think that he's solely responsible for his poor play.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I bring it up, right? I bring up that question of like, do we still view him in the league as a top 5 shooting guard? Because then you not get more back in return for a younger, top 5 shooting guard in the league if you are the Phoenix Suns as an organization, right? KD's like 36 and he's on his way out of the league. You might just have to kind of ride that out. You could get something back from him, but really in terms of the future, you're not probably going to get as much back. So,
I disagree. I think that they could get assets for KD. I think that KD still has a lot.
Too,
I think he doesn't have the value he used to have, but he probably has the most value on the team just from like a contract perspective, a shorter contract, easier to move off of that money than definitely a Brad Beal, but also probably a Booker. And then I think what you need to look at too is what are the trades that are going to be out there, right? Like a team that's going to trade for one of these guys is going to be a contender, and they're not going to want to give up, player assets. They're going to want to give up future assets, right? And that's not really where they're at. So it's like it feels like it's a tangled web that they need to kind of like pull apart and try and reorganize. And it's not going to just be like we trade KD or we trade Booker and then we can maybe solve some of our issues. Like it's going to be 3-4 transactions before you're really starting to see the vision of what you're shooting for. So
because I feel like if you trade one, you trade both and just try and get as much back.
I even from
I think
Bradley Beal, like Wizards looking type team for the next.
But then for what you're gonna tank? There, though. You have no picks. All of your picks are all of your future picks are owed to other teams. Like the last thing you want to do is bottom out and give another team a lottery pick, right? Like they have to.
Yeah,
all right,
they're shoehorned here to.
They're fucked.
they're shoehorned here to try to have to compete. Because they've invested all those assets into KD, into getting Brad Beal. It's left them bone dry, both in the roster, but also in their future assets, right? Like that's a problem that Brooklyn was kind of having, is that they gave up all their future assets to build that team around KD, ironically, and then they had to unwind that web, and now they can go back into tank mode because they're able to do a couple of transactions and get those assets back. But other than that, it was looking pretty bleak because you're looking at giving a lottery pick or a top 15 pick to a potential contending team or whoever might own them. Probably OKC. Probably OKC owns all of them. I don't know, but it's just it's a bit of a mess, and there's not like a simple solution.
It's not a bit of a mess. It's a whole. And like I said, it right. Like it's not a team that as you start looking forward, you don't want to be the Phoenix Suns. I'm happy that they have a billionaire owner that is seemingly willing to open the wallet because they're going to need it. They're going to need it soon. At least in the marketing side, they're going to have to come up with, I don't know, taco nights or something to bring people over to watch the Suns. It's not looking good.
Yeah. They need to bring Charles Barkley back. That's what they need.
You know what? This is the time where you bring, the Ring of Honor, those kind of nights, and, you look at your alumni. It's like, all right, who needs to be added to the Ring of Honor, right? And you make those nights and because otherwise, but we'll see. I mean, I would be surprised if they actually go in for a trade. I don't think that because otherwise, they're punting the season in. Do they want to do that? I think they foolishly think that they can still do something. And also I don't think they want to be the team that, say like, we mortgage our future for KD and Bradley Beal just to trade them away. But we'll see. Enough sucks. It's going to be sad.
We're watching the same movie that we watched in Brooklyn a couple of years ago.
Pretty much.
It feels eerily reminiscent to it. And then now look where Brooklyn is, right? And to Leo's credit, they blew it up. They got rid of all of them. So maybe that ultimately is a solution, but then you got to find those transactions to get your assets back. Otherwise, you're a tanking team with no assets, relying on other teams' assets to try and build for the future. So yeah, it's a sticky situation. I think probably 61-year-old Charles Barkley would be better than Yusuf Nurkic has been so far this season.
I do want to hear Charles Barkley, and you know what? I'm gonna wait until next week that we talk about media and low ratings because we've already had a full-on episode, and it's not like this conversation about media is gonna go away. But I just as much as Charles Barkley likes to go out by Lakers, I want to hear him going at the Suns. Let's go, Chuck. Let's go. Be real, man. Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm not. I like the guys from inside the NBA. They just they grind my gears sometimes. Woo! Well, what a show, guys! 150 episodes behind us. I just want to thank you all. Thank the folks that have been contributors of Dropping Dimes for the past 150 episodes. Everyone that's been a guest, all of our future guests. I know I want to bring out a lot more guests this year, but it's easy to say 150, but I look back and we're not making bank out of this. I think last year we made $10 and I bought myself a coffee. I'll buy you coffees eventually, guys. But we do it because we love it. It gives us an excuse to get together with our friends, to wear our jerseys, to just talk about basketball, and that's what fills me up, and that's what makes me really happy about having Dropping Dimes. There's been times where I consider, like, is this something that I still want to do? And every time that I jump on the pod and I record with you guys, it just puts a smile on my face. And I cannot thank you enough for that. I want to thank everyone that is listening this in the future, because without your support, we wouldn't still be doing this. And we're going to continue to grow. I have no doubt that 2025 is the year that we make a big leap in the Dropping Dimes sphere. And I don't know what that's going to look like. There's too many ideas, but I know that this is the year where we live a footprint in basketball society through ethical basketball.
Well said.
Well said. I do want to say too, Rod, just such an incredible accomplishment. I see 150 episodes as well too, and like, you made this dream of yours, a reality as well too. Like, it's such a pleasure to be a part of this with each and every one of you guys. Like, every single week too. Like, this is literally the highlight of my week. Like, I just love talking hoops. Just love kind of talking about the topics as well too. But like, even though I'm not in Vancouver with you guys, like, seeing the difference that Dropping Dimes and what you've done, Rod, just in the community there too. Like, pick up games, bring people together with Lee Ellis and all sorts of things too. Like, it's just, I mean, this is, even goes further than just the podcast itself, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Blake. That means a lot.
Cheers to the next 150.
Woo.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's
Also, I'm gonna
contagious, Rod. Your vision and your dedication to this podcast like really uplifts all of us. I know, like, for myself, some weeks it is hard to get through because of life. But then you're always constantly reminding us, always kind of giving us space to kind of come in and talk basketball. So I appreciate you for that. And yeah, man, salute.
Yeah, I think
you.
anyone
Really
involved in the basketball community in Vancouver knows Rod's name and knows the impact that he's made locally. So it's been really, really fun and an honor to have been a part of that journey with you. I'm excited to see where we get to this year. I know we got lots of big plans and stuff we can't really talk about yet, but obviously stay tuned, and we're going to be here talking hoops every week, just like we always are.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. I didn't think I was going to get a little bit emotional there. I appreciate you all. Love you all so much. To end up on a funny note, I had to do math conversion because I was like, how much is 150 dimes? It is $15. So we have $15 off Dropping Dimes. Let's make it 150 million.
That's almost how much
Let's
money
go.
we made last year. That's crazy.
I think so. Almost there. Yeah.
That's how much money the Phoenix Suns have left in the bank account. That's all they got. So.
It's almost a coffee each.
Yep.
Yeah, there we almost, depending on the coffee shop. Not in Vancouver. Yeah. We'll have to go. We'll
Maybe
probably
Tim's.
drop off. We'll pay Blake a visit and we'll do that.
Yeah, we can maybe get you like a box of Timbits or something.
We'll do that. We have to celebrate. All right, folks. Well, to everyone that is watching, make sure that you share this with a friend. We're trying to grow that YouTube channel, so smash that follow button, subscribe. We're going to continue these lives because we already paid for the platform, so we better make use of it. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram at Dropping.Dimes. If you want to talk about something, send us questions, just drop us a DM. We always answer. I know, Instagram is something that we've been very consistent, or as much as we can. And we do get a lot of comments from our friends. So keep them coming. Let us know what you want us to talk about. You want to jump on the pod? Let me know. Why not? That's the police telling me to wrap it up. If you want to get a hold of us, contact at dropping-dimes.com, or again, send us an email. Until next time, and here's to 150 more episodes. This is the Dropping Dimes crew signing off. Peace, love, basketball. Adios. Happy 150, guys.